Hi there, my name's Adam Fielding, and welcome to another one of these music making sessions. I feel like it's been a little while since I've done one of these. It's been 3 weeks or so it's not been a huge amount of time, but it feels like it's been a while. So I've been kind of unsure as to where to go with this particular session. So I figured the best thing I could do would be to just crank up the tempo, because the most recent things I've done have been kind of more mellow, more sort of down tempo. So I figured if I stick the tempo to 145 BPM, that'll give me a bit of a kick to actually do something a bit more lively and a bit more interesting. So as I have no idea what I'm doing today, I am going to be using, this will be a bit of a showcase for some of the players in Reason 11. So I was thinking, as kind of an additional thing today, it'd be interesting to try writing a tune using exclusively stock instruments in Reason. So I'm going to be using a bunch of effects and players that aren't included with Reason 11 Suite. But I figured sticking with some of the instruments and maybe using some that I haven't used for a while would be quite interesting. There's one that I haven't used for ages and ages, which I feel like this would be a great opportunity to bust that out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I've set this to 145 BPM, so we've got a nice tempo ready to go, and I figured I should probably go over my little mastering setup here. So in the post mix chain, I've just got a maximizer, M-class maximizer, that's got a 3 dB gain on the output. The soft clip's turned on. I'm just going to turn that up to about 28, so it's about 9 o'clock or so. And that's just there to kind of give the music a bit of a bump, because I'm going to be mixing relatively low for listening back to. And yeah, so that's it. That is my rack setup. We can forget that's there now. And I hope this works, because I had to mess around with my setup to do another stream earlier this week, so I'm just hoping this all works. So the first thing we're going to do is just create an instance of redrum, and I'm just going to load a kick and a snare and see where it goes, basically. So I'm going to fire up the old drum supply library, have a look in the bass drum section, and I'm thinking something reasonably punchy would be a good thing to go for. So let's So we get the fun of listening to me trying to find a decent kick. So, it's always fun, always fun. I'm just gonna keep scrolling. I think I'm just scrolling wildly here. Let's chill out. Let's chill out. That could work. I'll hang on to that as a maybe. There we go. I'll just reduce the length on that and just use that as a starting kick, I think. I might come back to that because I'm not super happy with that. So actually, hang on. Right. Actually, no. Let's get this right. Let's get this right. That'll do. There we go. I'm glad I stuck with that. Okay. So actually, what I'm going to do before I start messing around with anything else is I'm just going to open up my usual drum insert setup, which is this chappy here. So for anyone unaware, I'm just going to open that up, and this is my drum insert section. So I'm using an instance of the Curaga Eve MP5, which I went over earlier in the week during the Reason Studio stream, and this is kind of my go-to EQ for most purposes now, to be honest. So I'm giving the drums a bit of a 12k boost and a 20k cut, and it kind of gives them like a nice pop but a nice smooth sound at the same time. The pulverizer I'm using for a bit of compression. I might actually introduce a bit of dirt, and the limiter is just to kind of tame the transients a little bit. So I'm just gonna get a simple kick pattern going, and there we go. That's about right. So cool. So we got a kick. Excellent. Right, now we're cooking. Right, so let's get a... So I'm thinking, instead of a snare, I might use a clap of some kind this time. So I'm thinking, like, just kind of something simple. That'll do. So just kind of something different, I feel like. And let's get a hat. So if I get a kick, a snare, and a hat, then I can start messing around with Beatmap and see where we go from there. Hopefully get some ideas going. So, oh, that'll do. Ooh, I'll stick with that. So, right, okay, so we've got a very, very basic thing going here. So I'm just going to create an instance of Beatmap and hopefully get some ideas going. So I'm going to use a different map this time, and I haven't used the Uncharted map before during these streams, so I think I'm going to do that. It's apparently weirdness, exotics, doublets, and triplets. So that sounds exciting. Let's do that. So I'm thinking immediately I might turn the kick frequency down, the snare density rather down, leave the hats as they are, because we're working at 145 BPM. We don't need kicks happening all the time. But I mean, we'll see. So I'm just gonna play that and see what it sounds like. Let's just move around a bit. I actually kind of like that. So I'm going to leave that. I might increase the hat density actually just to... So one thing I'd really like to add is in fact, let's get things set up for later on, because I'm sure I'm going to be doing this later anyway. So I'm going to do my usual trick of taking the kick output, which is redrum output 1, and sticking that in this spider audio splitter here. The output will go back into the merger along with the rest of the redrum. So the output from that merger section is going into the insert section of this redrum channel, and the stereo out is going into the same merger section. So it should sound exactly the same now. But I've actually splitted the kick drum into a separate channel, so now I can start processing the kick separately. So I am going to process the kick separately and add an instance of disperser, which, if you watched the Reason Studio stream earlier this week, you'll know is it's my favorite bit of secret sauce. So, so let's do this properly. And oops. But it's great on kicks, so that's a bit much, I feel. Remember to wire it right this time. Yes. Oh God. Yes, it's wired correctly this time. Everything is going through the limiter. That was the worst. So I'm just going to set the threshold to -3 dB, because it doesn't really need to be -6. I need to update my preset, to be honest, because that is ridiculous. So I've got like a nice kick, and yeah, I've got like a nice little pattern going there. So I'm okay with that. So I think I might actually add a bit of percussion as well, because for some reason I tend to overlook the percussion when I'm actually working on these particular things. So percussion, that's number, there we go. So let's find some percussion, damn it. So if I just go into the percussion folder of the drum supply, and that's more like it. Let's have a look in these weird. Or like that. So if I just, I think that'll work nicely with everything else. Okay, that's interesting. So yeah, that's cool. So I think there's a bit too much percussion going on, but that'll be... Okay, so I'm thinking what would make the most sense for me would be to create a bunch of percussion. I'm getting a sort of slightly kind of glitchy kind of vibe from this, like a more kind of... I feel like I want to get away from the whole kind of chill thing, but I feel like this is going in that direction. But we'll see. We'll see. So I'm going to create an instance of Dr. Octorex, and I will explain my reasoning why in a second. Hey. So I'm just going to go into the factory sounds. Actually, no, I'm going to go into the loop supply folder and grab myself some glitchy sounds. I want some like just some kind of glitchy sounds that I can mess around with. So that'll do. So if I just... I feel like I can ignore a lot of this. So I'm going to use... I've turned the enable loop playback off there, and I'm going to use evolution to trigger this Dr. Octorex. So what evolution does is it's kind of a generative player that just plays a set pattern or patterns. Excellent. The sound is working. Clubmat's asked, yeah, glitchy stuff, not using Reactor today. No, I'm going to try and stick with the factory sound bank stuff if I can. So yeah, I mean, that's why I've been using loop supply for this stuff. So yeah, so I reckon I could get something interesting going there. It's a bit loud for me. It's yeah. So I'm also going to increase the high pass filter on that, and I'm just going to play it without actually messing around with anything and just hear how it sounds. Okay, I reckon that will work nicely for messing around with. So I'm going to set the low note to C1, which is the first slice of a Dr. Octorex loop, and the high note to... I don't know, what is the high note? I don't know, let's set it, yeah, just leave it and see what happens. So I'm going to set the density to 100%, so it's always playing stuff, and just see what happens. I'm just going to press play. I'm going to set repeats to 1, so it's constantly shifting that pattern. Excellent. So I got like a nice little glitchy pattern going there, and it will just run indefinitely. Excellent. That worked quite nicely. So I'm going to set the velocity to 100 and 100 so it doesn't alter the velocity in any way. I might increase the amp envelope, so that's fine. So I have another combinator insert that I haven't used in ages, and I feel like this will be a great time to use it. So in my effects folder, I've got this thing called Delay Glitcher, which I haven't used in years and years. So Buskin Bills has said, I see you've been practicing with the Evolution Player. I have. It's fantastic. It's so damn good. Yeah, I've been using it a lot since the last stream. It is very quickly becoming my joint favorite player with Beatmap. It's that good. It's fantastic. And I fully anticipate using that a lot today. In fact, I was thinking of doing a stock instruments and effects and players only thing today, using only stock stuff from Reason 11 Suite. But I realized I'd probably really want to use Evolution. So I'm using stock instruments, but not stock players or effects, which means I can also use DR1, which I'm bound to use very shortly. But so I've just added this delay glitcher insert, which uses only stock effects from Reason 6, I think. So it doesn't... In fact, a lot of these devices are from Reason 2.5. This probably would have worked in Reason 2.5. So what this insert section does is it takes the input signal and splits it into a series of matrix devices. And these kind of trigger individual channels of a mixer, which I've... To be honest, it's been a long time since I've used this, so since I put it together, so I can't remember exactly how it works. But basically, there's a bunch of CV values coming out from these matrix devices into this mixer section here to basically trigger the individual channels, and each channel has a separate amount of delay applied to it. So this one is 31 milliseconds, this one is 15 milliseconds, this one's 10, and so on and so forth. So what you get is this kind of glitchy, repetitive sort of sound. So I'm going to mess with this a bit, turn the dry wet down a bit so we get a bit of the dry signal, and I'm just going to play it and you'll be able to hear what it's doing yourself. So if I put that back to dry and put it back to fully wet, So it's like adding these little kind of glitchy effects there. Like, I've been using this thing for years and years. I've got a funny feeling I might have put it together in like 2011 or 2012 or something, but it's so useful. And this is actually a modified version of the patch I put together, because I eventually shared it on the Propelhead user forum, I think, and someone actually modified it and sent it back. And I can't remember who it was who actually modified it, but it's a great beast. So I'm actually going to turn the matrix values down to kind of weird odd values, so it's not constantly repeating the same thing on regular intervals, so we get this kind of constantly shifting sound, because I quite like the sound of that. If you're going to use a matrix, you might as well start using odd timings. So what I might do is actually turn the amplitude of that up and turn that mixer up. So there we go. So we've got like a nice little glitchy pattern. So just to remember, this is what it sounded like originally. And this is what I've done with it. Cool. So something I really wanted to try today was something that I tried a couple of weeks back. So I was working with some like tracker jungle projects a couple of weeks ago, and I've been using like whole chunks of breakbeats just chopped up into like sort of half bar sections and then triggering them manually in the tracker. And I thought it'd be really interesting to try that approach in Reason. And then I started thinking, wouldn't it be cool if I could trigger those whole sort of breakbeat chunks using something semi-generative? And then I realized I could use Evolution to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the factory sound bank and have a look in. Just want to grab some drum loops, some chunky drum loops. So Bomb Squad is a pretty good idea for that. And just have a look, see what works. That's chunky. I like that. So I'm just going to drag that in as audio, and it's just one bar. So what I'm going to do first of all is quantize it. Just my reasoning may become apparent soon. I'm just going to chop that into 4 chunks. So I've got 4 chunks of that. So if we play them individually, it's quite loud actually. I might turn that down. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take those chunks and bounce them to new samples, which might seem weird because it was already a Rex loop. Why have I just chopped it up again? That's stupid. I'm stupid. What am I doing? So I'm actually going to delete that audio track because I'm done with it now. I've got the audio I wanted. I'm just going to cast it aside like old news, and I'm just going to fire up an NNXT, and I'm going to find those chunks and so song samples unassigned. I'm going to stick them in the NNXT. Yeah, never try saying that phonetically. It's not great. NN19 is much easier to say. So I'm going to auto map the zones chromatically. So those zones are mapped from C1 through to D#1. So there we go. So I'm just going to leave those as they are, and I'm going to attach a player, an evolution player. And the low note is C1, and the high note is going to be, surprise, surprise, D#1. So I'm going to select a random seed, and I'm going to turn the repeats down to 1, so it changes patterns every time. And turn the density up. I don't want it to be too high. I want there to be breaks every now and then. And I'm just gonna play it. So that's way too fast. So I'm going to turn the speed down a bit. Just checking the chat, and Drabbit's here. Hi, Drabbit. And someone said, do you use something like Voice Meter Banana so you can route your mic to Stream and Reason? I'm using Element, which is on my second monitor, to monitor my microphone. I was using Studio One before, but Element is a much more streamlined, elegant solution in my opinion. And I'm using an OBS plugin called OBS ASIO, which I can use with the loopback channels on my Sapphire, which just basically captures everything I can hear and sticks it in OBS, which is wonderful because it means I don't have to change any configuration or anything. It's literally what I hear is what is broadcast, which is really nice. Getting this working with Zoom earlier in the week was a pain, and I might go into that later, but I'm already getting sidetracked, so I'm just gonna mess around with this. So I feel like that might be a good percussion channel. I think that like it works nicely as like a jungle kind of effect, but I feel like as like a percussive thing, I might be trying it a bit here. So in fact, if I just slow it down a bit, that might work. I might come back to that. I'm not entirely convinced that works, but it's a neat trick. If you want to start slicing up breaks and kind of just leaving them to play on their own, it's kind of a nice idea. But I'm not entirely convinced it's working in this instance, so I'm gonna come back to that. So right, so we've got some percussion. I feel like I should stop messing around with that. What I am going to do is I'm going to create a block. I know I'm working with players, but I feel like having a block ready just so I can add some stuff if I want to makes sense. So I'm just going to. I feel like I need to just mess around with this. I think maybe a different seed, and just click wildly until, actually no, that was a bad idea. Just click wildly until I get something that works a bit better. I see, Drabbits read my mind. Just take the high end off of those breaks, roll off the rest, and use it like percussion. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. I think maybe in the context of the track that might work. In fact, I'm going to start labeling some of this stuff and just call this drums, glitchy percussion, and break perk. I don't know. Let's call it break percussion. Let's do this properly. Right. So we got that. I think it's time I started branching out. So this can be its own column. Let's have like a drum column, and keep that there. And I'd like to get some pads going. So something I've really wanted to try, it's been a while since I've used this, is I wanted to use the Maelstrom, because I haven't used this in ages, and I'm not planning on creating a patch from scratch because it's been such a long time, and a lot of what I do with Maelstrom sounds kind of noisy and horrible before I kind of form it into something usable. So I am going to totally cheat, and oh, it's in the pads folder, so that's kind of convenient. I'm gonna find a pad and maybe mess around with it, and it's sort of Evolutions pad seems kind of appropriate. So I'm not sold. I'll hang on to that and maybe change it in a second. So I think what it needs is a healthy dose of reverb, because everything needs reverb. And my intention is to combine the Maelstrom with, I'm going to use another Evolution player, and I'm going to combine it with a scales and chords player so I can get some kind of semi-generative chords playing over the top. And hopefully if I'm using like a massive reverb tail, I might actually add some delay on the top of that. I can just kind of have everything wash out without having to trigger too many notes. So we'll see if that works. So I'm just going to create a Evolution sequencer, and this is kind of turning into a bit of an advert for Evolution, but it's a really good player, and if you haven't tried it out, I would highly recommend it. I mean, you can use quad note generator for sort of similar stuff to this to a certain extent, but Evolution is much more elegant, I think. Oh, it's time for me to pick an actual key. I'm going to go with G flat, because I don't know, it's kind of my go-to, and I'm going to go Lydian. Unless anyone, I'm open to suggestions. What key would you like me to use in the Twitch chat? Please let me know. So I'm going to change the rate of this to something really, really slow. Like, there we go. I'm going to set the key to the same. G flat Lydian. So key of sweet. I wish that was a sweet key. I want a sweet key. The key of S. I'm more of a fan of a drop L. That's my favorite key in tuning in general. So I'm just gonna play this and see how it goes. I might change the low and high values. So let's go with F sharp 1 and F sharp 2. Why not? E harmonic minor. Okay, let's go for it. Let's go for it. E harmonic minor. Let's do the same here. Well, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference because it's going to be going through the same scales and chords device, but let's go for it. So let's go E1, E2. Right. I'm going to change the repeats to 1. I'm not sold on this idea. I must admit I think I preferred it before, but we'll see. Oh, this sounds pretty disturbing. I like it. Right. I think I'm gonna go back with my F sharp. Was it Lydian? Actually, screw this. Let's go with Phrygian. Let's go. I don't know. Let's go F sharp Phrygian. I mean, to be honest, the problem could be with the patch, but I'm gonna. Excellent. Yes, the chat commands are still working. So if you're watching this on Twitch and you want to start blasting me with random sound effects, please do. FSB is still working. Duh is still working. Unfortunately, I think the bot that was supposed to be reminding everyone of what commands they could use isn't working. So that's a bummer. There we go. Save reminder. Yes, there we go. I'm going to call this stream and go with that. So I think maybe I just need to try a different patch. So I'm gonna go with Heaven and just I think if I roll off the lows that could work quite nicely. It's like a sort of that sounds suitably moody. I like it. Cool. I really want that delay to wash over, so I'm just going to adjust some of these values and adjust the diffusion. Annoyingly, seems to be. There we go. That looks more interesting. I think actually, if I just leave that as it was, before I start messing around with it. I forget, of course, because it's stuck in a block. So I think if I just leave it playing in the song, it'll be. Everything should vary quite nicely. Yes, excellent. Okay, just wanted to make sure it wasn't just going to play the same 2 chords over and over again. Diashra says, exclamation block should be a sample of Adam saying, "You're a block." Excellent. Let's make this happen. In fact, exclamation mark bongos, exclamation mark block, "You're a block." Right, yes, excellent. I'm making a note of all these genius ideas for next time. Right. I am disappointed that I didn't make bongos a thing. I made a note of that and everything and then just forgot. So, never mind. So okay, we got some plaids. I'm thinking of maybe kind of jazzing things up a bit by using the scales and chords things to start messing around with inversions and extra notes and octave up and color and stuff. But for now, I'm just going to leave that as it is. I don't want to start going too crazy. So that's one stock synth. So I noticed earlier on Buskin Bills say Dirty South bass subtractor, but I was actually thinking of, I used the monotone relatively recently as like a melodic synth, so I thought it'd actually be nice to use it for its intended purpose, which is as a bass synth. So I am actually going to create an instance of monotone. In fact, I'm going to give this a sensible name instead of calling it heaven. And just call that pad. This can be bass. I'm just going to... There we go. So I'm just going to stick the amp env up, and I'd like to use... So I've done the age-old technique of taking two square wave oscillators and detuning them slightly. It's a slight variation on the 2 sawtooth oscillators and detuning them slightly, which is a mainstay of most electronic music. but no, today I'm taking two pulse waves and detuning them slightly. So we've got a nice bass there. So bring that down so it's kind of about minus 10 dB. So what I tend to do is set, because I'm working on headphones, so I can't really hear a massive amount of what's going on. I tend to volume match the important things like kicks and bass and kind of any foreground elements to about minus 10 dB on the SSL mixer, and other kind of background elements to about minus 20. It's a good kind of rough rule, because especially now, because I can't really hear exactly what's going on. So I hope this doesn't sound like garbage yet being the operative word. So I'd like to maybe try doing something besides just a sort of a drone. So I'm going to add a bit of the filter envelope. So I'm going to go back into Blockland, and let's let's have some more kicks. Okay, right. I am going to set this to re-trigger because I want that envelope, that kind of filter envelope, to re-trigger. Damn it. In fact, I quite like that. So what I might do is set the beatmap to reset step every 32 steps. So it's every 2 bars. So we get the same kick pattern happening every 2 bars, which will work nicely with the bass, I think. Oddly, I feel like that would work better. So the beat map is still doing that weird thing where it kind of, every now and then it just kind of goes out of sync, and I'm still not entirely sure why. This is what you hear in an RPG when you invade the Magic Factory or Steampunk Ironworks. That's amazing. Grab it on the ball. Excellent. I'm still thinking that pad's... I think I'm thinking too much about the pad. I'll come back to that in a second. Okay, so we've got a Maelstrom pad, we've got a monotone bass. I think it's time to bring in a Europa, and I was thinking like some kind of nice sort of semi-generative kind of key chord kind of thing. So I'm just gonna go to my patch folder and go into by device, Europa, and I've got a couple of key patches I really like. There's one called Track. I feel like Tracker is kind of appropriate, and it's one that I kind of go to. I think it's like a kind of drop key that might work nicely. We'll see. It might not work. So again, I'm gonna use the old evolution trick again, and that is, what was I? F sharp Phrygian. Okay, so let's set that to F sharp Phrygian and turn the density down. Okay, that's not so great. So I might turn the speed down. Let's just try this. So it's sharp Phrygian. So I'm hoping that a bit of reverb and delay will sort this out again. So I'm just going to copy the delay from up there and paste that in there. I think that's just, yeah, I think if I just set that to F sharp 1, F sharp 3. I think it's just too much going on. That's too fast. So if I send that to... Ah yes, thank you, AK47 Advancer. It's on G flat. I was wondering why that sounded... That actually no, that's right. It should, yeah, G flat is F sharp. It's the same thing. So sorry, I was thinking for a second there. It doesn't sound right, and something's not working. So I think maybe let's try a different patch here. Let's go video. That sounds fun. Maybe if it was less drawn out, that might work. Let's just mess around with it. Such is the joy of working with players. There we go. If I just remove the third note. So again, I only want that to repeat once. I want it to play a different pattern each time. turn that up a bit as well, so I have a bit more to play with in the actual mixer, and just call that keys. In fact, maybe if I just bump that up an octave, that might do the trick. So if I set that to F sharp 2 and that to F sharp 4. Still not entirely sure why that beat map keeps drifting off. It always happens, like it didn't happen earlier in the week when I was on the Reason Studio stream, which had been a perfect time for me to be like, why is this happening? Can someone explain why this is happening? But never mind. So... No, that's not right. That pad needs a bit more of a wash, so just gonna turn that up a bit. In fact, what I might do now that I've got the kick sidechain, well the kick split set up, easy for me to say, I might take the kick output and use that as a dynamics input on the pad and on the bass, and sidechain both of those with the kick, just to kind of give it a bit more of a kick, for want of a better word. So turn that on both of those. That is a bit extreme, so... Okay, so I've got quite a bit going on here, and everything's kind of washing over everything else, so I say that like it's a bad thing, really. So what I might do now is I'm gonna mute the keys so I can focus on everything but the keys. Turn down the ducking on that pad, because that was a bit extreme. Right, okie dokie. So just leave that as it is. Leave the keys out of the equation for now. I was thinking it might be fun, because it's been quite a while since I've done this as well, to add a Thor. It's actually been ages since I've used Thor, so it'd be fun to build a patch, I think, and just kind of see where that goes. So So I was actually talking about Thor on the Reason Talk forums earlier today, and you know, just talking about it kind of made me realise maybe just since I've used it, so it'd be kind of fun to try making something different. So Thor is awesome, and it's like for a synth that came out in like 2007. I think it's aged surprisingly well. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a wavetable oscillator just because I like living dangerously. So now I need to familiarize myself with what these are. So that'd be kind of cool. I'm thinking like a nice kind of glassy sort of key would be kind of cool. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. And I'm always a fan of using noise to create interesting sounds, especially with Thor. So yeah, I do like. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. I might use that to kind of process the first oscillator, but we'll see. In fact, let's just have a go. I'm just. It's already getting some interesting sort of slight harmonics. So in fact, that'll be a nice. So that's a nice kind of key type patch. I'm just going to crank up the polyphony because I'm going to be using it. Clovermo has just said in the chat, modulating an oscillator's pitch or linear FM with it referring to noise is an interesting idea. So I might just do that. So I might just use oscillator 2 to modulate oscillator 1's pitch, which sounds bonkers if you kind of think about it. So I'm just going to. That's kind of cool. That's kind of an unusual sound, and I'm a fan of Thor's ability to create unusual sounds from very kind of straightforward sources. So I'm just going to turn the filter down a bit. I'm going to turn the envelope up a bit there and kind of mess around with it. In fact, I might just bring the decay down on the envelope just so it's kind of a little more snappy. So I might add just a touch of chorus. This isn't kind of going where I was expecting it to yet, but I can still kind of mess around with it. So, so let's use the shaper. I like the sine shaper for kind of creating weird kind of sounds, so I might just do that. That's cool. If I turn it up a bit more, that's a bit too much. So a really cool trick that I was showed by my friend Tom Pritchard a while ago was if you use a low pass filter for filter 3, everything basically goes through filter 3 before it hits the output of the Thor. So it's kind of like a sort of master filter section. You can turn the filter frequency right up, turn the envelope down because you can use it as is, and you can turn the resonance up just to kind of scoop the mids a bit, which is useful for helping it sit a little better in the mix. Drabbit has said, do the filter 3 stereo split from the back and make it wide. I could do that. Let's do it. Let's do it. So not multi-oscillator. Let's go wavetable, select 10 signs again, and do the same thing here in the modulation matrix. So let's set that to oscillator 3 pitch. Maybe set it a bit differently. Set the position a bit differently. So if I send. Oh, it's not going to work with the shaper though. That's a bummer. Anyway, I'll give it a go. So, yeah. So I just disable that. Actually, no, let's not do that. So I'm going to send filter 1 to filter 3 left in, and filter 2 to filter 3 right in. This is all on the back of the Thor, by the way. This is just something you can do. So I'm just going to turn those up in the amount and scale it to the amp envelope. So again, this is all on the back of the Thor. Like if you've never tried this before, look on the back and just copy what it says there, because it's a great little trick. So right. What am I doing wrong here? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. Right. Okay, so that's still not right. Confused as to why that is louder. Oh, it's just the position. There we go. I was thinking maybe I was doing something wrong there. There we go. So actually what I might do is, instead of doing this kind of mid-scoop trick on filter 3, is I might use filter 3 as a high-pass filter, which I could do on the SSL mixer, but kind of, I just really like messing around. I like to have the sound sounding self-contained before I start messing around with it elsewhere, especially with Thor. Like, you can do so much there. I feel like just get it right in the Thor. So if I just roll it off about, there we go. So let's bump that up a bit. In fact, what we need now, I'm not using any LFO, so I'm going to route LFO 2 to oscillator 1 pitch and oscillator 3 pitch. Set that to -12 and set that to 12. So, right, okay. I'm going to leave that for now. It's kind of a neat little sound. So I'm just going to... Actually, I'm going to give it a bit of delay using the Thor's delay. Push up the drive on filter 1 and 2 for a little volume boost if needed. In fact, I could just do it on filter 3. There we go. Oh yeah, I've got the resonance turned up there. I was wondering. Right, there we go. Okay, so just gonna leave that for now and add a bit of DR1 and turn that up, and we'll see what happens. Actually, there's one thing I do want to do is I want to use the mod envelope to modulate the pitch. So when you press a key, it kind of has a bit of a sort of pitchy attack. So I'm going to route mod envelope to oscillator 1 pitch and oscillator 3 pitch, and just turn those up and see what happens. There we go. Lovely. Nice. There we go. So, if I just turn off the reverb, actually, because that is a bit much on the attack. If I just bring that down. There we go. That's nice. It's less of a kind of and more of a kind of mallet-y kind of attack. So if I turn the reverb back on, I might start adding this. I can't actually remember what the track I was working on sounded like now. Right, here we go. It's the problem when you start messing around with patches individually, is you lose sight of what you're actually working on. You realise, oh yeah, this might not actually fit after all. So we'll see. I think it needs a more pronounced delay, so I might actually add an instance of the echo after... Why does it put it down there? I might add an instance of the echo after this reverb, just so we get some nice kind of delay tails on that. better. Right, here we go. Make Beats Not War has asked, how do you make music completely sober? Our show host is always getting too effed up. I don't know. I mean, I'm having a beer, but that's pretty much it. I don't know. As I've been repeatedly told, write drunk, edit sober, but I don't know. I don't know. I can't really answer that. Okay, now we're getting some crazy delay tails going on there, so I'm gonna leave that. Okay, so I think that's kind of a good place to start with just kind of like a nice little block. So I'm going to call that mallet for now because it sounds kind of mallety. Oh, had a couple of track title ideas. Phoenix Down. I would totally go for that. If I... Oh no! Someone tries to use the save command and it said internal server error. That is the worst. Stream elements. So Phoenix Down, I would totally use that if I hadn't already written a track a few weeks ago called Phoenix Sunrise. But Curaga, I am very, very tempted to go with because it tickles that kind of sort of... Yeah, so I'm going to go Curaga and... Right, okay, so I'm gonna leave that as it is. That's a good solid, a good firm block. So I'm gonna start working around that and just create an instance of the block here. And the problem is, now that I've got a block, what I might actually do is go into this block to make my life a bit easier and automate some of these players so they don't all play all the time unless they're unmuted in the block, which is a nice little trick. So I'm gonna disable the beat map here and automate it, so that in this particular block, it's just on. Copy and paste that, so. So that works as you'd expect. I'm gonna do the same with this particular player as well. So let's edit the automation on the glitchy percussion. Just bring that down. Let's do the same thing on the NNXT. Just turn that off, automate it. Do that, do the same with the pad. So you may be sensing a theme here. So everything, I don't want anything to play unless I just play it. if I have it unmuted in the actual block itself. So interestingly, Clovermutt has said it has Thor kit vibes. If anyone is unaware of Thor kit, it's an awesome set of refills by Tom Pritchard Sound Design, which were those were all over the music that I wrote in sort of 2012 to 2000 and now, pretty much. And someone has said that Thor lead reminds me of an Adam Fielding kind of sound, which is kind of funny because I feel like for a long time the Adam Fielding sound was basically the Tom Pritchard Sound Design sound, because I was just using a lot of Thor patches by Tom Pritchard. So basically, if you like that kind of sound, I would say definitely check out Tom Pritchard's refills. They sound much better than what I've cobbled together here. But it's I feel like it's a similar kind of vibe, but executed much better. So yeah. Oh yeah, I need to. There we go. So actually, I think that's all of it. So if I go back to the song and I just press play, it's playing everything. So if I move the block aside, nothing plays. It doesn't play anything unless the block is in place, except for that for some reason. That's because I haven't disabled that. So if I just automate that, go into here. So I should probably give these sensible names. So that's the pad player. That's the... Oh no, I regret my decision already. Why have I decided to name everything? So that's the breakbeat player. That's the glitch player. So this also means I can start getting rid of a bunch of sequencer lanes, which I'm not actually using, which would be nice, really. So I'm going to delete that, and delete that, and that, and that, and I'll keep the redrum for now because I might start adding drums manually in a bit, and I can always re-add these sequencer lanes. It's no problem. So I feel like I may have rolled the lows off a bit too much on that Thor. So if I just... Actually, I'm going to go against what I just said. I'm going to bypass that particular filter. Just filter it on the SSL because it's easier. I feel like for my own sanity, I might just do that. And also, that does actually sound better without the drive on it. So yeah, that was the right call, I think. Which is interesting because I would have thought that'd work. So this definitely does have kind of a bit of an old school kind of sound to it. I say old school like the late noughties in my regard, sort of mid to late noughties. So depending on your perspective, that may not be super old school, or it may be ridiculously old school. I don't know. Just wondering what would happen if I did that. So, right, I'm going to leave that block alone. And so now if I create a block and I start muting all of these players.
Okay, let's do it.
Excellent. Ty Blue, I apologise. Feel free to refer to me as Ty Blue rather than someone has said all the time. Jesus, I've been here for nearly every stream for the past 3 months. That is true. I apologise. So yes, I know I'm very impersonal in that regard. I tend to kind of very quickly glance at the chat and kind of be like, oh, this is what someone has said, rather than, but yes, I will do this from now on. I apologise, Ty Blue. So what I'll do, I'd like to start with a pad that actually starts at the beginning of the track and kind of go from there, really. So at the moment, the pad player isn't kicking off at the start of the track, which isn't really what I want. So I'm just going to go through these seed values, and there we go. There's one that starts right there. So Clovermutt has said, just refer to Adam as streamer. Like, streamer, what are your opinions on drums? Do that. Please do that. Just refer to me as streamer. It's fine. So I'm just gonna use that. Use that block. So there you go. Oops, did not mean to do that. So there's quite a lot going on there already. I've just realised that is quite a lot of pad. So I might just bring that down a bit, and I might reduce the density, particularly at the start. In fact, I could automate the density, and then we won't have as many pad notes triggering at the start. As long as we've got that one right at the start. Oh yeah, that's right. They're integer values. That's a whole other thing. Nice. Oh man, now I've broken it. Oh no, what have I done? Right. So I'm basically, this is kind of interesting because I'm essentially sequencing automating the density lane as opposed to sequencing these chords manually. So I mean, you could argue that it would be easier for me to just, manually program these chords to trigger where I want them to. Whereas I'm kind of wrangling with the players to play what I've got in my head. It's an interesting difference of approaching the way you write music as opposed to sequencing things traditionally. I'm sort of working with the players to create what I want it to, which is an interesting way of working. So I absolutely want those pads to filter in at the start. So I'm just gonna have those filter in like so. Clovma has said it's almost like working with a collaborative robot. It's interesting because during the Reason Studio stream earlier in the week, I did say it was like working with some kind of weird assistant. And I guess a robot assistant is kind of appropriate. So I'll go with that. Okay, that definitely needs a more sensible transition, and I'm probably going to be using the nasal riser very soon. But I would like to bring in the kicks at least, if not the snare. But we'll see. So if I just start automating these values on the beat map, so I don't really want the snare to come in just yet, or the other stuff. That's right, I left it about 1% instead of 0, so there we go. So it's a bit too many kicks to start with, so yes, the players are like having a collaborative robot, but as Drabbit said, the freaking players show up on time. That's all I'm saying. Yes. Pesky assistants never turning up on time. In fact, I might drag that pad filter out a bit. also maybe have the high pass filter kind of filter in a bit as well. So let's give that a go. I think actually I might bring that glitchy percussion in sooner because I feel like I need some kind of rhythmic element because the kicks just come in too suddenly. So I'm going to bring the glitchy stuff in immediately but have them filter in. So even though it's kind of this weird glitchy pattern, it should still kind of clue you in to what the rough kind of tempo is and when to expect something to happen. I think that last chord note is kind of throwing it off a bit, so I might just knock that on the head there. And I think it's time. I think it is about time to bring in nasal riser. So I'm just gonna stick some reverb on there just ahead of time and do the old trick. Again, if you've never seen this before, it is a very, very involved, very technical thing that I'm about to do. So here we go. I started too soon. That was too sharp of an inhale. Right, okay, so let's normalize that. And I don't think there's any way to normalize what that was. Not in modern society. So if I just roll off the lows massively there, and yes, I need to add exclamation mark nasal as a command. Yes, excellent. So nasal riser, the snort. Ow, that's loud. Right. She-Town Kid has said, I love how each nasal riser is an original. No slacking over here. Well, I mean, I feel like because it was born out of laziness, I feel like the least I can do is record it every time. Buskin Bills has said, we just better hope Adam doesn't get a cold. Yes. Yeah, that would really screw me up. I think I'd be out of commission for a while if I did that. Like, that's most of my music making techniques now revolve around me making noises with my face. So... Oh, whoops. Just press B instead of space. Right, okay, so we've got like a little intro, we've got some progression. I think at some point I might introduce another block to the equation just to vary things up a bit as the track progresses, but it's a start. It's a start. Just checking the chat. Drabbit says, lol, can you imagine Adam like making a bank of nasal risers and selecting his favourite? Auditioning snorts. We should get him set up with his first rack extension, the ENT. Excellent. I never thought that would be the idea for my first proper sample bank. The nasal riser. In fact, it might be interesting to bring in that that ducking on the pad as opposed to just having it kick in immediately. So I might automate the compressor ratio and have that increase over the course of that section, just so that the kick isn't immediately ducking the pad. It just kind of comes in. I might also automate some of the values on this here maelstrom, just to kind of vary it up over here. Let's just really go to town on this. So what I might do is just stop the beatmap playing there. Have a very, very short riser there, and then bring in the bass immediately afterwards. So it is time for another little nasal riser, so let's... Right, let's normalize that, and oh my, let's bring that down before I even start messing around with it, and I might drop the pad out for a bit there as well. Like a nice big feedback wash. That's right. I find it helps if you actually take out the elements you said you were going to take out and bring in the elements that you said you were going to bring in. Right. Yeah, She-Town Kid 79 has said 2 in one stream. Yes, 2 nasal risers in one stream. You can't argue that I provide value for money or time, or whichever you prefer most, I guess. Whichever you value the most, your time. I don't know. Okay, so I'm thinking maybe let's not have that echo ring out for quite that long. And also, I feel like I have no idea why it was playing stuff just then. That is very strange. I feel like I need an extra note. In fact, I am going to create a sequencer lane. Shockingly, I'm going to create a sequencer lane for this. That's very interesting, actually. How it does that. So, because I'm assuming because I've got the pad disabled here, and it's on by default elsewhere. If I move the position marker over here, it turns on the player, which I think is interesting. Buskin Bills has suggested dropping the kick. That's an interesting idea. I might try that. So let's go to the old kick density here, and I might have one at the start, which I'll just sequence manually here. So I'll just and I might just bring it back. That's cool. I like that. Problem is, I think I need that pad ringing out to be the same. I want it to be the same note as the bass that's coming in, which I believe is an A. So if I come back here, shut up, pad. Right. So if I go here and it's a B. Right. Okay. So I want that to just be a B before everything else comes in. So where is the pad player? So I just want to disable that there and manually trigger a B. Oh, that's right, I've muted it. In fact, I want to adjust the. I really wish I wouldn't do that. It's odd. So I'm just gonna do that for now. So I'm going to adjust the diffusion on that particular section because I really want it to kind of wash out and go a bit crazy. So I'm just going to push up the diffusion and the amount, the spread and the amount. So it's going to do both of those at once. And we should get this kind of nice sort of washy kind of sound. So I might have that extra Thor just kind of... Actually, no. I might start playing some of those keys, which I've got kicking around. I think that was the keys player. I don't think I labelled that, so I'm just going to have the keys filter in. The keys which I haven't touched in ages, so I can't actually remember what these sound like now. So if they don't fit, I just won't bother. Right. I think those high notes don't work, so I might just bring it down an octave to F sharp 3. Had an interesting question in the chat from Tom80 asking, can I ask one question a bit off topic? If you're using Reason, on which computer are you working on, Mac, PC, and what kind of specifications would like to buy a new computer? I'm not going to go into the whole specifications thing, but as Dave rightly pointed out, it said, just asking because I was watching Adam's past live streams and he was using Mac and now I see he's using Windows. There is no difference between the two if you're using Reason. They can both do the exact same thing using Reason. It all, in my personal opinion, it all comes down to personal preference and what programs you're going to be using. So it's I tend to use Windows because, well, I switched to Windows because my iMac, which I bought in 2015, was getting a bit slow, and I queried a local Apple reseller about how much it would cost to upgrade my internal Fusion drive to a solid state drive, which is a pretty standard thing, and they said it would cost £1,000, and I said no, and got a PC. So this was after years of me struggling to use stuff in macOS that I was used to using in Windows natively. But it kind of, the reason I got a Mac in the first place is because I did have a Windows-based PC, which kind of died right before the deadline of a project I was working on. And I needed something that if it broke, I could just take it to a shop and say, hey, can you fix this? And that's why I got a Mac in the first place. And in that regard, the support was fantastic throughout the lifetime of the computer. But I've decided that it's just not worth the expense. At this point, it would be cheaper for me to literally buy a new computer if this one just dies than it would be for me to pick up a Mac and have the extra support. Like, it was kind of a no-brainer, and the performance of this has been outstanding since day one. So there we go. And also with the idea of Apple switching to ARM-based processors next year, I personally would not want to be a part of that, but that's going to be fun to watch. Like, as a kind of techie, geeky kind of guy, I'm very intrigued to watch how that pans out. But that is a whole other topic, and I'm going to get back to making some noise before I get into a weird kind of... Yes, as Drabbit has said, functionally they act the same on both Mac and PC. Functionally, your stuff will just work the same. It's just which environment you prefer working in, macOS or PC. And I wouldn't say one is macOS or Windows, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other, because they both have their strengths, they both have their weaknesses, and I picked Windows based on that. But do some research, make your mind up. That's what I would say. So yeah. Yeah, I just feel like those keys are just too frequent, so I'm just going to adjust the density on those keys because there's just too much going on. Realised I had the percussion come in, and I don't really want that to come in immediately, so I'm just going to fade that in as well. Maybe filter in the breakbeat percussion. If it works. Might add some hats there. It's just like some extra, or maybe some extra percussion there, just to vary things up a bit. Buskin Bills has said, increase the kicks for a bar just before that second half after the drop, then drop back to normal. So there, I guess you mean. So let's give that a go. In fact, I'm not really playing around enough with the density of these things, so I'll just bump that up there. So I'll add some nice simple hats there. So I'd like an open hat. So stick it on channel 8, why not? So if I go to the old drum supply, let's go into the hi-hats folder. That'll do, nice 909 hat. So in fact I'll mute that by default and automate it to unmute here. So I can just sequence it here. Nice. Right. I'm just going to listen to it from the start because it's been a while since I've actually listened to... Well, that shouldn't be happening. Keys. Where are you? Let's try that again. Well, I'm not entirely sure why stuff is just playing for the hell of it, so I'm just going to ignore my previous muting of blocks idea. Just do that with everything just to make sure nothing is playing out of turn. Yeah, so I think that motion change is a bit wacky, so I'm just going to adjust that. It's still pretty wacky. Just bring that down a touch. Yeah, I'm not sure about the flow of this. Like, it just kind of, everything just kind of happens a bit suddenly for my taste. What I might do is just sequence some just a little bit of bass to start with, like a sort of dropping, like a pitch drop bass kind of thing. So if I just disable the, where is it? Pad player, monotone. Oh, there it is. I was looking for a player for some reason. Right. Okay, so. So that could be kind of an interesting way to start. So and then just bring that back up. Nah, it doesn't work. So, Yes, Buskabill's asked, what's the range on the pitch bend on the bass? And that is set to 2 at the moment. So it could be interesting to maybe... Let's try an octave. That might be... Mitch Mooder said, what about killing the reverb on the riser after it has risen? That is a great idea. So, thank you. So, I am going to do exactly that. So I'm just going to kill that immediately after the nasal riser has done its thing. And I think that'll be interesting. Maybe not immediately. I think that would work if there wasn't the massive wash, the delay wash, and I feel like that's kind of what I'm going for. It's a good idea though. Maybe if I did get rid of that wash and we'll see. Nah, I like that delay wash too much. I might adjust the filter though, so it's lower at the start. Right, so if I think if I just remove if I stop the drums playing after that point. Yeah, Mitch Mooder said, I like the sudden stop of the riser emphasized by the bass kicking. I know exactly what you mean. Like I can envision it in my head, but I feel like with the delay happening, it just doesn't really work for me. I don't know. I'm going to try that again and just kill that there. Right, let's just listen to this again, and man, I've never struggled this much with just like a simple little transition during one of these streams before. It's super interesting. think that that snare needs a proper little wash. So I'm just going to add a DR1 as an aux send and automate that to kick in on that last snare hit there. So that'll be nice. Tell you what, let's try messing around with this echo. Let's add an instance of the ECF42 and let's have that just properly drop out as the then have it come back. All right, let's try that. Nah, it's just too sudden for me. So right, I want. I think I might be getting somewhere here. There's too much going on with the kicks there. But I think before that point it worked really nicely. Still not super into those keys, unfortunately. I think that's a more fundamental problem with the block that I created though, unfortunately. So what about stuttering the riser with a tad of reverb, or alligator or synchronous? I'm not entirely sure I follow. But oh, all right, okay, that's. What I might do actually is just repeat that. Clubmutter said, any plans to add vocal washes this week? I was kind of thinking about it, but I didn't. I feel like I may have overdone that over the past few weeks. But it's been a while, and I feel like it could do with it. Save reminder. Excellent. Thank you, Buskin Bills. Also, thank you. I love watching you work. You're awesome. That's very kind of you to say. I think I may have brought those hats in a little too soon, so I might just have those fade in. Those kind of 909 hats. Ditto with the breakbeat patterns, so I might. Where is that? Hate it when I can't find the automation curve I'm looking for. The automation lane I'm looking for. Right, there we go. Oh right, that's right. That's why it sounded weird. Because the hats just drop out, right. This would be a good time to bring the pad back in. Maybe use this old ECF again. So I'm thinking I might change the block there, have like a bit of a chord change, then bring it back to the original, then have the track kind of naturally sort of just round itself out a bit after that. Buskin Bills has said this is sounding like more of a 5-minute track than a Golden 3. That is my worry. I'd like to wrap this up and not obsess over it for ages. Like if this section is anything to go by, I feel like I may be focusing on too many smaller details. So, here we go. Busker Bills said that bass could do with some extra growls. Well, I think I may have just the thing. So I'm going to go back to good old faithful Europa. And I'm going to go here and use Annihilate. That sounds fun. Yep, that's exactly what I'm after. Right, so I'm going to get rid of the reverb because we don't need reverb on that. So I'm just going to head back into the block and I'm going to mirror what's going on with the bass with this particular thingy here. So, whoa, that's way too much. So I'm wondering if I just bring that down an octave, what that would do to it. So let's give that a go. That's too low. So now I get the fun of muting all of those and bring that in over this section here, I think. Right. So if I just call that growly bass and filter that in. It's the wonderful thing about having a like a personal production library of patches and stuff is I never really feel like I'm cheating if I'm dipping into my patch library, because this is all stuff that I've made. So it's not cheating. It's stuff that I've already made. It's fine. I thought I changed that. Right, okay, so pop that back up an octave because that sounds wrong. Right, okay, so let's just give it a go. Buskbills asks, any chance you'll put that in the Dropbox? I'll be putting this project in the Dropbox. This particular patch will be part of the project file. So if you just want to check out anything, this will all go in the Dropbox. If you have Reason 11, then you should just be able to open it up. I believe this particular patch was, I think it was a patch from Europa Relay. So consider it a freebie, as are most of the patches in a lot of the stuff that I've been sharing. So She-Town Kid has asked, do you ever have days of 100% sound design for Reason? If yes, how often? Yeah, but to be honest, I don't. That's an interesting one. Like, I can't remember the last time I wrote an entire track using nothing but samples in the factory sound bank, if that's what you mean. But if you mean using only rack extensions and stuff as opposed to VSTs, then, well, yeah, up until Reason 9.5, that's exactly what I was doing, more or less. I was just bringing in elements as I needed them as audio, but that was more out of necessity. In my own solo output, I was still using just rack extensions because it was so much easier for me to do that. So I'd say up until about sort of 2016 or so, that's when I was doing it. Buskin Bills has said that was about 5 weeks ago. So yes, I can't remember the last time I did that. About 5 weeks ago. Okay, yeah, my mind is not what it used to be, apparently. So yeah, but in terms of doing only sound design for it, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm still doing a lot of patch design and stuff in Reason, but just a day to make your own sounds and patches is what She-Town Kid has said. And yes, I mean not so much nowadays, but I haven't really done that for a while, to be honest. I tend to kind of, I mean, unless I'm working actively on a project, in which case I will sit down and kind of focus on it. But for my own stuff, I tend to kind of do it in drips and drabs, although unless I'm working in with Complex 1 or something, in which case I need to sit down and just use that, and time kind of gets away from me. But in terms of just like having a proper sit down session of doing patches in Reason, it's been a while since I've had like a proper session of just doing that, but who knows. Torm has said a refill from Adam would be awesome. There is a refill by me. I had kind of a short-lived sound design outlet called Fielding Soundworks, and the last thing I released was in 2017, which was a refill called Europa Relay. And the reason I stopped doing that, this is a massive segue, by the way. Like I'm sort of getting massively sidetracked. Not a segue. This is a sidetrack. This is an uncomfortable moving on to something else. I'll get back to the song in a second, but I stopped doing patch-related stuff for my own ends and releasing stuff independently because, as far as I'm concerned, the whole kind of soundware market has become a bit of a race to the bottom as far as I'm concerned. There's constant sales and people giving stuff away for like £2 to offload stuff. And I feel like the effort that I was putting into what I was releasing was not worth wasn't worth me kind of participating in that race to the bottom. That's why I never have sales on any of the Fielding Soundworks stuff that I did, as few banks as there were, just because I put in quite a lot of work into those refills, and the asking price I think is fair. And if you don't like that, that's fair enough. But I'm just not a fan. Like, people seem to be churning out sound banks that don't sound particularly great, and then charging a couple of quid for them. And it's just such a massively oversaturated market that it just wasn't worth the effort in the end. Which is kind of sad to say, because I used to do a lot of patch design with guys like Nuclear Sound Lab, and I still do a lot of freelance patch design for other companies and other projects. But in terms of independent releases, it just wasn't worth my time, to be honest. So that's why I haven't released another refill since 2017, because it just wasn't really worth it. But there we go. Buskin Bills has said, write a book instead. So that would actually be quite interesting. One of my favorite books that was released related to Reason, I will get back to the song in a second, that was related to Reason, was Kurt Kurosaki, who you might know as Pef on the old Propellerhead user forum. His book Power Tools for Reason 2.5, which was like, reading that while getting to grips with Reason 2.5 was such an eye-opener for me in terms of using the tools creatively and sort of how to get the most out of the tools that are provided. Excellent book. Highly recommend it. I'd say kind of even now there's some good stuff in there just to kind of get to grips with the basics and how to use things creatively. I think a lot of the stuff still carries over. So anyway, I'm going to get back to this, and I will do something with this track, damn it. Buskin Bills asked, is the book outdated? I mean, it focuses entirely on stuff in Reason 2.5, so in that regard it is dated, but I'd say a lot of the principles kind of carry over. So it's a tricky one to recommend. It's like, I love it, but I guess I would find it hard to recommend nowadays, because I mean it is like 16 years old. So I don't know. It's a good book though. Yeah. If you see it like somewhere, I'd recommend checking it out. It's still a good book. I do feel like that growly bass is a bit too much. I think what I might do here is just drop some stuff out, including Jastro suggested sticking supercharger on the growly bass, which I might try. Busker Bills also suggested adding some growl to monotone. I could just open up the filter. That wouldn't add growl, but that would make sense. So I'm gonna do that. And I'm also going to mute the breakbeat player as well. I'm going to put a little riser in there. So, right, okay. I'll try putting a supercharger on here. It's been a little while, so I feel like that'll be a good place to introduce some vocal washes. Need a little riser there, I think. Yes, right. So if we just have... If I just notch that a bit. Bring those open hats back. Right. The old nasal riser, the old trick. 3 in a row. Right, okay, so I'm going to try recording some vocals, so here we go. I'm in Reason now. Right, so let's add some reverb. Hello. Right, okay, so that's not a great take again, but I will just pitch correct it and it'll be fine. So now I'm thinking I was going to use a polar, but I might actually just use the form and shift here and just see what happens. So Adagro has asked me what interface you're using. I'm using a Focusrite Sapphire 4i4. I used to use a, Focusrite Scarlett 4i4. I used to use a Focusrite Sapphire Pro 40. So, yeah. I need some extra percussion, and I'm thinking this would be a good time to bust out the beard scratch again, just as kind of a nice alternative to firing up some shakers again. So yeah, I'm just gonna give that a go. So screw it, here we go. Right, okay, so I couldn't actually hear any of that, so I'm wondering what that's going to sound like normalized. So I just filter that. Yeah, that doesn't work. So let's try that again. So hello. Man, that's quiet. Okay, let's turn that up. I just can't hear it, which is kind of annoying. So I think the problem is I had a shave a couple of days ago, so the hair just isn't there. So oh. That's so scratchy and horrible. Shitana said, you look like you're thinking extremely deep about a mix decision. No, just scratching my face. So I think I'm just going to use some tambourines or something because that's not working. So let's just. That is exactly what I need. So anyway, here's some bongos. I'm not even kidding, I'm just going to leave that in. I feel like I could just add another layer of vocals there, and if I hadn't already used some tambourines, I could have added something that... still not sold on those tambourines, I might grab something else. That'll do. I think what I need with that is if I could use a pulsar, but instead I'm just going to use a subtractor because for some reason I just really fancy using a subtractor to modulate the panning on that particular channel. So I've taken the LFO2 output and hooked it up to the pan CV input on this particular channel. So I'm just going to turn that down, and I've taken LFO1, haven't I? Yeah. Of course, the one that you can sync. Yeah. Need that growly bass to come in a bit more slowly, because otherwise it's just a bit sudden. Realize I could be automating the density of all of this stuff to adjust, and I'm just not. So Yeah, I think those keys just are just confusing the mix completely. So what I might do is just take them out during this section because they're just unnecessary. There's just too much going on. So I will just do that. I'm not gonna lie, this is not my favorite stream track so far. Let's just add some extra pitched up vocals. I mean, at this point, why not? Yeah, there's too many kicks going on there. I appreciate the kind comments in the chat. Again, I feel like it's one of those things where I might listen to it again tomorrow and be like, that's pretty neat. But yeah, I feel like this isn't going to be my favorite track regardless. But again, I'm happy that it's a track, so that's a thing. I am totally going to copy that nasal riser though, but I am going to stretch it and I'm going to transpose it just for a little variety. So yeah, I think I'm just going to fade it out here, then go back to it and maybe have like another sort of quick pass over it. And yeah, reevaluate what's going on here. So yeah, I need to fade out that growly bass and then just see where it goes. feel like I don't really need that there. So let's move that out of the way. I've still got... People are saying that my beer is empty, so I need to finish the stream. I've still got a little bit left. I mean, not a lot, but a tiny bit. It's fine. It'll be fine. Shitan says, his beer glass is symbolic of an hourglass. Once it's empty, the stream is over. Oh man. I mean, I can make this last for a little while. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Sure, something just came in. Oh yeah, the mallet. I need to stop that. Right. Need to stretch that sniff. Some very interesting comments in the chat. So besides me needing a butler. But Buskin Bills has said, it's all fun, I just love using Reason to have fun. That's what it should be about first and foremost. And I absolutely agree. It's kind of interesting. I think it's rather telling that I'm not super enamored with how this track has turned out. I'm not going to lie. But I've had fun doing it. And I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't having fun doing it. And, you know, it's the process itself is kind of, it's part of is the reward for me. The fact that, you know, sometimes I end up with something that doesn't sound terrible is kind of a nice side effect. So yeah, I totally agree that if you don't find the process enjoyable, then just don't do it, because if you're in it to be a success and to make loads of money, then why are you in music? Like, the music industry isn't renowned for treating musicians particularly well. I hate to break it to you, but that's kind of how it works. So anyway, I'm going to continue wrapping this up and see how it goes. As Buskin Bills has said, be a banker. I was going to say be a lawyer, but either or, I guess. So there we go. In fact, I might bring down the compression on the pad as the track ends. It's interesting that the keys are still playing. When they shouldn't be, so, but I might bring them back in towards the end, because I sort of forgot that they were a thing I could bring in. definitely want the breakbeat player to fade out before that point, because they just sound weird. Some interesting comments in the chat. So Ty Blue has said, after all is said and done, these streams during these times will be something we'll all never forget. That's a very interesting point, actually, because I never really sort of consciously thought about why I got into doing these streams again this year until Ryan asked me a couple of days ago whether the lockdown had an impact, like whether that was sort of the impetus that drove me to getting back into them. And absolutely, it 100% was one of the reasons why I got back into it in the first place. I was struggling with getting my streaming setup back up again in Windows, and this was kind of the boot that I needed to connect with people again. So I thought that was fascinating. And and Tom has said, so if I get it right, the more Adam is drinking, the more the music ideas go. That is absolutely not how it works. I mean, I think the longest track I've written during these streams so far was, I can't remember the name of the track, but the one I wrote about 4 weeks ago, there was like a prog house track that was about 7.5 minutes long. And yeah, that was just like, it's one of those things. Like sometimes you start with an idea that works out really nicely and you can kind of carry it out. And sometimes it's, you just you finish the idea that you start with. But that's just how it works. And I always consider it to be better to finish an idea, even if you're not super happy with it. If you can finish something, it's worth at least trying, because otherwise, unless you keep an archive of all your unfinished ideas, which I would strongly recommend you do, it's wasted inspiration. I think I've read a really interesting thing from Bjorn Lin many years ago, who some of you might know from his music and games, and as a tracker musician as Dr. Awesome, and I think it was Dr. Awesome, and he basically said the same thing. I got into the habit of finishing ideas because for me an unfinished idea is wasted inspiration. I thought that was a really, really interesting thing to hear. So yeah, so I'm just gonna see if I can finish up this ending. Kind of like that. I like how that just sort of ends. Oh man, stuff starts playing right at the end. That is super annoying. Stop playing. Right. Just gonna make sure there's no other beat or player bass stuff playing at the end. So this is kind of an interesting thing for me. So I'm using the ECF42 here, which is a filter that came with Reason 1, interestingly enough. And I've always really liked how that sounds on the end of a track as kind of a tool to fade out individual elements. And up until the SSL mixer was introduced in Reason 6 and earlier versions of Record, I used to use the ECF42 pretty much on everything if I needed to fade elements in and out, just because it was an easy thing to drop into the rack to fade in and out. And I haven't actually used it to fade stuff out in quite a long time, because I'm so used to using the SSL low pass filter to just fade elements out and then use a line mixer to fade out in the rack. So it's really nice to have just dropped an ECF42 in here and just used it again, because it's been such a long time since I've actually done that. And I'm remembering that, oh yeah, that's a really nice sound. And there's something about the way it kind of brings a track to a close that I really like. So yeah, I guess that's this week's homework, is to is to write a track and fade it out using an ECF42. Yeah, I just love how that sounds. So it's like I can just bring it to a close there. That's, oh, it's almost 5 minutes. Almost. I think what I'm gonna do is gonna go to 5 minutes. I'm just gonna stretch out that filter just to that point. Right, okay. It's ridiculous. Okay, so one thing I'm just gonna play this from start to finish, and I might mess around with the layout of some of these blocks, but I'm just gonna play it and keep quiet and watch the chat. So here we go. I think we're going to leave it there. I've just noticed a few people in the chat leaving. So, Dagro has said, enjoyed your $30, Adam. Thanks for the refill. I hope you enjoy it. Like, sincerely, it's like I'm super happy with the patches in Europa Relay. The ambient patches in particular, I still use all over the place. I mean, I'm still using it all over my music in these streams. So, I really hope you enjoy it. I mean, I made it in late 2017, so it's a couple of years old now, but I really hope you enjoy it. Anyway, I'm going to stop promoting my own stuff elsewhere and focus on this. So actually, it's not my favorite stream track, but it is a track, and I'm not unhappy with it. I'll put it that way. So, yeah, so I think I'm going to leave it there. So if you're watching this on Twitch, I'll stick around for a little bit afterwards, like a few minutes. So if you want to ask me anything or just hang out for a little bit, then please do so. But for the actual music making session, I think I'm going to leave it there. So as always, I'm going to come back to this track tomorrow, which is called Curaga, by the way. I really like that track title, so I thought that was kind of cool. So yeah, thanks for all the suggestions again in the chat. I'm terrible at coming up with track titles on my own normally, so I very much appreciate the input. So anyway, as far as the music making session goes, that is pretty much it. So I hope you'll join me for next Thursday, because I'll be doing another one of these then. And yeah, who knows what I'll be doing then? I have no idea. So something in Reason, I would guess. But if you're watching this on YouTube, then thanks so much for watching this, and thanks for making it this far in. Cheers, and see you next time. Bye bye.